Hello everyone, I'm Sandra Castro and I'll be talking today about some work I did with my co-authors listed here on the consistency between sea surface temperature and sea ice concentration in Arctic satellite products. This work started as part of a visiting scientist fellowship to DMI in 1999, but we finally were able to get this paper out recently in remote sensing. So the main focus of this investigation was to evaluate the SST sea ice concentration dependence in mixed sea ice pixels using GRIST L4 SST products and associated sea ice concentration product that is distributed as part of the metadata. So the first thing we needed to do was to evaluate what was the best SST sea ice concentration product combination for this application, and we did this by comparing against cell-drawn data. The next thing we're going to see is the parametrization of the SST CIS concentration dependence using a numerical simulation. And the last part, we're going to evaluate that simulation as a quality control in SST analysis that use CIS concentration as forcing. For the data, we started with 6 L4 SST analysis listed here, Ostia C3S SST, which is an extension of the CCI, the Ghost Pose blended, the microwave IR, CMC, and the DOI SST. The year is the Arctic summer of 2019, and we compare against two sail drone data from the 2019 MIST Arctic campaign. The first result we see here is the quantities of ice the sail drone encountered in its path according to the sea ice concentration product distributed with the L4SST for the duration of the entire campaign here on the top. And we can see that all the products basically see very different amounts of ice. So we know from a camera that was deployed in one of the sail drones, the 1036 one, um, that the sail drone was embedded in ice for these 6 days. And during these 6 days, only for days 173 and 174 did all the L4 SST analysis produced some quantity of ice. Here's zooming in around those 2 days, and we can see that the quantities of ice vary with the SST CIS product combination. In order to understand the source of the differences, we plotted these images on day 173. And the left, we have the SSTs. On the right, we have the sea ice concentrations. And we can see one of the main factors for the difference is the definition of the ice age in the different sea ice concentration products. So the ice edge is usually defined as concentrations less than 15%. And we can see here that products that have a wide ice edge, like the CCI ice-related product, put the two sail drones completely embedded in the ice, whereas products that don't report ice for the ice edge, like the microwave IR, puts the sail drones totally outside the water. Another factor that influences the amount of ice seen by the sail drone is the spatial resolution of the product. Here we see that DOI SST, which has the coarser resolution at 25 kilometers, puts the sail drones completely embedded in the ice as well. As part of these evaluations against the sail drone, we have here time series of SSTs with the black trace corresponding to the sail drone. In the bottom, we have residual L4 sail drone different SST differences, and we can see that the only one that has zero bias is Ostia. Or if we see in the time series of the SSTs, we can see these period between day 168 and day 172 where the sail drone dropped to negative temperatures, And Ostia was the only one that was able to capture this feature. As we can see here on the right, the image corresponding to day 170, right in the middle of this period, we see this cold feature that was resolved by Ostia only, and the sail drone traversing that feature in pink. So because of this enhanced feature resolution in Ostia, we selected this product as the basis for the study we're going to explain next. We also consider the CCI and the ghost pose blended because they have the same spatial resolution as Ostia. Now that we define the three products we're going to work with, we have here bin error plots of SST as a function of sea ice concentration. The data is for all the grid cells between May and October of 2019. And then we can see in the case of Ostia on the top that the SST-CI's concentration dependence appears to be exponential in nature. Also, the top of the error bars, which correspond to one standard deviation, are bounded by the 90th percentile, which is the same plot here on the right. In the case of the CCI or the C3S, we see that it starts exponential, just like Ostia, but there's some bump here in the middle for the intermediate sea ice concentrations. In the case of the ghost boost blended, the retrieve temperatures are substantially lower than in the other two products, and we can also see that the dependents have the opposite concavity. So in this first comparison, we wanted to determine if the bump in the C3S SSTs were introduced by some artifact in the sea ice concentration related product. So the experiment we did here is that we exchange the ice products between Ostia and the CCI. So here on the left, we have the Ostia SSTs with the CCI ice, and in the right, we have the CCI SSTs with the Ostia ice. And we can see in the before-after curves, once we use the CCI ice with the Ostia SSTs, we introduce that bump into the Ostia SSTs. So that means that the artifact is indeed part of the sea ice associated with the CCI. However, when we apply the Ostia ice to the CCI SSTs, we see that we reduce the magnitude of the bump, but we don't eliminate it. We're not able to eliminate it entirely. So this also means that the feature introducing this bias is present in the CCI SSTs, but is not present in the Ostia SSTs. So the first thing that comes to mind to try to explain something that is present in the CCI SST and associated ice, but it's not in Ostia, is proximity to land effects. So in this experiment, we remove all the pixels that were within 50 kilometers from land, and we reproduce the SST-CI ice concentration dependence. We have in red Ostia for comparison, and then we have the CCI before with the dotted line and after with the dashed line, and we can see that we are able to eliminate the bump by removing pixels in close proximity to the land. The effect is not so strong for the ghost post blended, but we can see that we're able to change the concavity of the curve for sea ice concentrations less than 45%. So in summary, the presence of uncorrected errors in either both the ice or the SST product does alter the exponential shape of the SST versus the ice concentration dependence. So if we know the true shape of the SST ice concentration dependence, in theory at least we can use it to correct for undetected errors. So in this next stage, we try to derive the SST sea ice concentration dependence using a numerical simulation based on physical principles. The idea is that we want to simulate the maximum SST that a pixel is able to support given a certain amount of ice. So for the simulation, we need three parameters, which are the maximum SST variability at zero ice concentration, the minimum SST at 100% concentration, and the relaxation rate between the two that we call the SST gradient. So we derive these parameters from independent data set. We use the 2017 GTS buoys, and we derive the SST sea ice concentration with all the summer buoys for 2017. Um, just for comparison, there's the CCI SST for 2017 corresponding to the buoy data matchups. So an interesting result that we see here is that during the Arctic summer, an SST of 0 degrees Celsius is more representative of the consolidated ice than the minus 1.8 or freezing temperature that it's usually used. At the other end, when the sea ice concentration approaches 0, we have that the buoys behave very similarly to CCI. So we, for these maximum SST, we use the top of the variability of the SST product, which is 9.8 degrees Celsius. For the minimum, we use the buoy, 0 degree temperatures, the triple point temperature of fresh water. And from the simulation, we're able to obtain the required gradient, that in this case is 2.15 Kelvin per kilometer, when we consider a surface area of 5 kilometers by 5 kilometers. Here on the right is just an illustration of one of the realizations of the numerical simulation. This is for a given sea ice concentration of 10%. So we repeat the simulation for all concentrations between 0 and 100%, and in red is the fitted line that we obtain. We call this the SST limit, and this is going to be our parametrization. Finally, we evaluate the usefulness of this equation as a post-processing filter to reduce persistent errors in both of the products. So on the top right, on top left, we have all the mean before and after curves combined. Top right is Ostia, bottom left is CCI, and bottom right is the ghost post blended. So just as a glance, we see that the effect of the filter is very powerful about reducing the standard deviation at high latitudes. Here with Ostia, we see that the plot before the filter was bounded by the 90% percentile, whereas with the after the filter application is bounded by the 75 percentile, which means that the filter was able to remove the top 15% outliers evenly across all the sea ice concentration bins. In the case of the CCI, we reduce the standard deviations, but also we're able to eliminate the bump in the MIC entirely. Together, there's the curve for the proximity to land in the filter we used before, and we can see that both filters agree pretty well, so we're pretty certain that the problems in the CCI are due to coastal pixels. And then for the ghost post blended, we reduce the standard deviations, but also we are able to obtain the right concavity of the SST sea ice concentration dependence. So in summary, we were able to characterize the SST sea ice concentration dependence for mixed water ice pixels that dependence appears to be exponential. It's also pretty sensitive to the presence of errors in either of the variables. We propose a parametric equation based on a physically based numerical simulation. And we prove that the simulation is effective at reducing the SST variability at high latitudes, and it can be used as a quality control filter for assimilation systems that use sea ice concentration as part of the forcing for the SSTs, or for any model that uses both variables as boundary conditions. Thank you very much.